Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
Ever get that itch? You know, that feeling like you just got to explore something new, like a truly unknown frontier.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
It's like everyone's obsessed with space these days, right? Which is cool, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's this whole other frontier that's right here on Earth, and it's even more mysterious. I'm talking about the ocean.
Yeah.
Underwater habitats. Think like space stations, but submerged.
Wow.
And today we're diving deep, no pun intended, into two projects that are making some serious waves.
Okay.
Proteus, led by Fabien Cousteau, and the UK's Sentinel project by a company called DEP.
Very cool.
And you know what got me thinking about all this?
What's that?
BA International Magazine. They did a piece on underwater habitats, and it really got me wondering, why are we so drawn to this idea? Is it just the coolness factor, or is there something deeper going on?
Well, I think it starts with just how much we don't know about the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking 80% still unexplored. We literally have better maps of Mars than we do of our own seabeds.
That's mind-blowing. It's like we're looking out into space when there's this whole universe of mystery right here.
Exactly. And it's not just about filling in the blanks on a map either.
What do you mean?
The ocean plays such a huge role in life on Earth, from the oxygen we breathe to regulating the climate.
Right, of course.
There's even this initiative, the Ocean Census, that's trying to speed up the discovery of new marine life.
So it's like we're just scratching the surface.
Rarely.
Okay, so exploring the ocean depths, it's obviously not easy, right? That's where these habitats come in, I guess?
You got it. They're designed to let scientists live and work underwater for extended periods.
And that's what unlocks a whole new level of understanding.
Precisely. And this idea isn't even entirely new. You know,
Oh, yeah.
we've got some history to build on here.
You're talking about Jacques Cousteau.
Yep, Fabien's grandfather.
I remember those Conch Shelf documentaries as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
The underwater villages, it all seems so futuristic.
It was pioneering work for sure.
Now his grandson is picking up the torch.
That's right. Fabien's leading the Proteus project, building on what he learned from his own Mission 31.
Mission 31.
He spent a whole month underwater living in the Aquarius Reef Base, which, by the way, is still operational. Even astronaut Tim Peake got to visit.
Wow, so there's a real legacy here.
There is.
But Proteus and Sentinel seem to be taking things even further. Let's break down what makes each of them unique.
Sounds good.
Starting with Proteus, where's that going to be located?
They're planning to build it in a marine protected area off the coast of Curacao.
Okay.
And get this, it's designed to be modular, so it can actually grow over time.
Really?
The idea is to eventually house up to 18 people. They've got plans for living quarters, labs, a medical bay, the whole shebang.
18 people living underwater. That's like a small village. What about Sentinel?
Deep is still finalizing their location, aiming for somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea.
Oh, okay.
Like Proteus, it's designed to be modular and relocatable. Sentinel will be diving deeper down to 200 meters.
Wow, that's impressive. They both keep mentioning this sunlit zone, though.
Yeah.
What's so special about that depth?
It's the zone where sunlight can still penetrate the water.
Okay.
It's absolutely teeming with life, but it's tough to study.
How come?
It's too deep for regular diving and too shallow for those really expensive deep sea robots.
So it's like this missing piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
Right.
And given all the changes our oceans are facing, understanding the sunlit zone could be key to protecting the whole ecosystem.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this is more than just cool sci-fi stuff.
Right.
But what about the tangible benefits? What's in it for someone who's, let's say, never even been scuba diving?
Well, remember all those undiscovered species we talked about?
Yeah.
They could hold the key to breakthroughs in medicine,
Really?
especially new antibiotics. We're facing a resistance crisis, and the ocean could be our best hope.
Right. And I remember the article mentioned fungi found in the ocean. Could those be a source for new antibiotics? Like how we got penicillin from mold?
Precisely. And then there's biomimicry, learning from nature's designs.
Bio what now?
Biomimicry, like the article talked about the solar snail.
What's a solar snail?
It has these iron scales that actually capture solar energy.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could harness that power.
That's incredible.
Right.
And having labs right there underwater, that must be a game changer for research, right?
It's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to analyze samples immediately in a stable environment.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm getting it. And this is exciting stuff.
Right.
But let's be real for a second. Building and living in underwater habitats has got to come with some serious challenges.
Of course.
Not to mention the risks.
Yeah, we can't ignore those.
I mean, the recent Titan submersible tragedy really brought that home.
Definitely a sobering reminder of how unforgiving the deep sea can be.
Sobering is right, but I guess both Proteus and Sentinel are designed with safety as a priority, right?
Oh, absolutely. They've got
Yeah.
multiple redundant systems, rigorous testing. They're not cutting corners.
Yeah. Okay, good to hear. But there's also the human factor to consider. Like, how long can people actually live down there?
That's a key question.
I mean, Dr. Joseph Dituri, he spent 100 days underwater in Florida,
Right.
and he found that the pressure starts to affect the human body after a while.
His research is groundbreaking. He essentially discovered a time limit for saturation diving.
Saturation diving.
It's when your body becomes saturated with the gases you're breathing at depth.
Ah, okay.
There's still so much we don't know about the long-term effects.
So even with all this potential, there's still a ton of research and planning to be done. Where do things stand right now with these projects? Are they actually being built?
Proteus is in the process of finalizing its site in Curacao, installing monitoring equipment and the like.
Okay.
Deep is working on a prototype for Sentinel.
Interesting. And, reading about Brian Hillmuth, the chief scientist for Proteus,
Yeah.
he described feeling like part of the ocean, getting to know the fish, having dolphins follow him around. It makes you think, right? Like, what if we're not meant to just observe the ocean from afar? What if these habitats are a way to connect with it on a whole other level?
That's a question worth exploring.
It sounds like we're on the cusp of a whole new era of ocean exploration,
It
but
does, doesn't it?
if these habitats actually become a reality,
Yeah.
what are the long-term implications? What changes?
Well, for one, it could completely change how we do research.
Okay, how so?
Imagine having these permanent research stations all over the globe, constantly gathering data,
That would be amazing.
right? Making discoveries in real time.
It's like instead of dipping our toes in the water,
Yeah.
we're finally diving in head first.
Exactly. And think about the technology.
What about it?
Just like the space race led to all these advancements.
Oh, yeah, like in materials and computing.
Right, in medicine.
Yeah.
Who knows what kind of innovations will come from trying to live underwater?
It's exciting to think about.
Isn't it?
But, there's also a part of me
Yeah.
that wonders about the ethical side of all this.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't want to repeat the mistakes we've made on land.
You're right. We need to be responsible.
So how do we do that?
As we go further into the ocean, we need to minimize our impact. Work with local communities, respect the balance of life down there. It's all connected.
Right, it's all one big ecosystem. Okay, so let's get back to the practical stuff for a minute.
Sure.
How do these habitats actually work? I mean, we're talking immense pressure breathing underwater.
Yeah, it's not just building a house and submerging it.
Right.
Both Proteus and Sentinel are designed as ambient pressure habitats.
Ambient pressure, what does that even mean?
It means the air pressure inside the habitat is the same as the water pressure outside.
So like a giant underwater bubble.
Pretty much. No need for decompression every time someone wants to go out.
That makes sense. But doesn't that also mean
Yeah.
they have to breathe some special air mixture?
That's right. Especially at the depths Sentinel's aiming for.
So what are we talking about? Like those old school diving suits with the giant helmets?
Not quite that old school. But at those depths, the oxygen in regular air becomes toxic.
What?
Seriously.
They'll need to use a mix of helium and oxygen.
Helium, like the stuff in balloons.
Well, not exactly the same grade, but essentially, yes.
So they're breathing balloon gas. Wow, okay. And I guess that means
It does.
the aquanauts are going to need some serious training.
Oh, absolutely. Experienced divers, comfortable with saturation diving,
Right.
and able to handle the isolation of being in those close quarters.
It's like a whole new breed of explorer,
Underwater astronauts.
pushing the boundaries of human resilience.
Pushing the boundaries for sure. So how do you think they'll get power and supplies down there?
That's a good question. I mean, they can't just plug into the grid.
Not yet, anyway. They'll need a connection to the surface.
Okay, so like a tether.
Think of it like an umbilical cord to a support vessel.
So they're not totally self-sufficient,
Not yet.
but maybe one day.
I mean, imagine that
Yeah.
a network of underwater cities completely independent, almost like
Like a new civilization.
Yeah. Under the waves.
It's a fascinating thought.
It is. It really is. And the article talked about these habitats helping us tackle climate change, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm not sure I understand that connection. Can you explain?
Sure. Think of it like this. The habitats give us a permanent presence in the ocean.
Okay.
We can monitor changes in real time, gather data that we never could before, and hopefully develop ways to protect the ocean from the effects of climate change.
So like a network of underwater watchtowers.
Exactly. We can study how marine life is adapting, identify vulnerable areas, and hopefully come up with solutions.
It's crazy to think how much we still don't know about the ocean and how it's changing.
It is. It really highlights why these projects are so important.
It's more than exploration.
It's about understanding, protecting,
Yeah.
and ultimately coexisting with this incredible ecosystem.
Well said. But even with all that,
Yeah.
living in a confined space, hundreds of feet underwater for months on end,
I know.
that can't be easy on the mind.
You're talking about psychological challenges.
Yeah, exactly. What are they doing to address that?
Both Deep and the Proteus team are taking it very seriously. It starts with crew selection,
Makes sense.
finding people who are not only skilled, but also resilient,
Oh, why?
adaptable,
Mm-hmm.
able to thrive in close quarters.
Sounds a lot like astronaut selection.
Very similar. They also use something called biophilic design in the habitats.
Biophilic design, what's that?
It's incorporating natural elements into the living spaces.
Oh, interesting.
Large windows for natural light, natural materials and textures, even simulated views of the ocean outside.
So even though they're enclosed, they still feel connected to nature.
Exactly. And they're including spaces for recreation and exercise, too.
Oh, that's important.
Staying physically and mentally healthy is key for these missions to succeed.
Makes sense. So it's not just about surviving down there, it's about thriving.
Precisely. They want to create an environment where people can not just live, but actually flourish.
It sounds like they've thought of everything.
They're trying to feel.
Well, you've given me a lot to think about. It's incredible how much goes into these projects,
I know. It's amazing.
both on the technical side and the human side. What are the next steps for these projects? What should we be looking out for?
Well, for Proteus, the actual habitat is being constructed in France. Once it's done, they'll transport it to Curacao and submerge it.
A massive underwater construction project. That's wild. And what about Sentinel?
They're focused on refining the design and securing funding for a full-scale prototype.
Okay, so both are still in the works. Once they're up and running, what kind of research will they prioritize?
Proteus is going to be all about coral reefs.
Coral reefs, why those?
They face so many threats from climate change and pollution.
Yeah, no, it's a big problem.
They'll study coral resilience restoration techniques, the impact of human activities.
So important. And Sentinel, with its deeper capabilities.
Sentinel is aiming for the mesopelagic zone.
The meso what?
The
No.
mesopelagic zone. It's sometimes called the twilight zone
Okay.
because it's between 200 and 1,000 meters deep.
Wow, that's deep.
Right. Sunlight barely reaches down there.
So what's down there? In the twilight zone?
It's this vast, mysterious realm. It's home to a ton of creatures.
Like what?
Many of them are bioluminescent.
What, you mean they glow in the dark?
Exactly. They play a big role in the ocean's food web and carbon cycle.
That's amazing. So it's like we're about to enter a whole new world, like discovering a hidden kingdom.
It really is a reminder that there's so much we don't know about our planet.
It's humbling, isn't it?
It is. This has been an incredible deep dive so far.
It really has.
It feels like a new era of ocean exploration is beginning.
I agree. And it's not just about the science.
Right.
It's about rekindling our sense of wonder, our connection to nature.
Absolutely.
Eh?
And our responsibility to protect this planet.
Well said. Well, I'm definitely eager to hear more about these projects as they develop.
You too.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let me leave you with this thought.
Okay.
What if these habitats are just the beginning? What if, in the not-too-distant future, living and working underwater
Becomes as commonplace as traveling to space.
That's an incredible thought. And not entirely impossible, is it?
I don't think so. As technology advances and we learn more about the ocean,
Who knows what the future holds?
yeah, it really makes you wonder what kind of person can handle that kind of life, you know?
Well, they've done a lot of research on astronauts and people in isolated research stations. And there are a few traits that seem to be key.
Okay, like what?
The big one is adaptability. Being able to roll with the punches. You know, things are going to go wrong down there. So you got to stay calm and be a problem solver.
Right. Makes sense.
What else?
Teamwork and communication are huge. You're living and working with the same small group for months on end. So you have to be able to collaborate and work through conflicts.
Yeah, I can imagine being stuck with someone who's always complaining or negative would be a total nightmare.
Exactly. And you also got to be pretty self-sufficiently resourceful, too.
Okay.
You can't just run to the store for supplies. So being able to think outside the box and improvise is essential.
So basically you need someone who's part MacGyver, part therapist, and part deep-sea explorer.
Huh. Pretty much. But it goes beyond just practical skills. There's also a certain mindset.
Oh, like what?
You need people who are curious, who have a thirst for adventure, who are ready to embrace the unknown.
So not just handling challenges, but actually being drawn to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that drive that pushes these ambitious projects forward.
I gotta say, talking about all this is really sparking my own curiosity. It's like these habitats aren't just scientific endeavors.
Right.
They're a whole new way of experiencing the ocean, connecting with it on a much deeper level.
I think you're spot on. It's about expanding our understanding of what it means to be human.
Wow. Yeah.
Our place in the web of life.
And maybe pushing the boundaries of our own evolution.
How do you mean?
Adapting to new environments, finding new ways to live in harmony with our planet.
Now, that's an interesting thought. Makes you wonder what kind of legacy these underwater habitats will leave behind.
It does, doesn't it? Will they be seen as the first steps toward a future where humans can truly live in the ocean?
It's a question only time can answer.
That's true. But if these projects inspire new ocean explorers, scientists, people who care about protecting the ocean, if they help us understand how interconnected all life is, if they show us we can live in the ocean without harming it, then their legacy will be incredible.
I couldn't agree more. It's a legacy worth fighting for.
Well said. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into underwater habitats.
It does, doesn't it? We've covered a lot of ground.
We have the challenges, the science, the psychology, the potential to change how we see the ocean.
It's clear that this is just the beginning. As these projects develop, I can't wait to see what we discover.
Me neither. So to everyone listening, stay curious, keep exploring, keep asking questions. The future of our oceans depends on all of us.
And if you want to learn more about Proteus Sentinel and the amazing world of underwater habitats, check out the BA International article that inspired this deep dive.
It's a great read. Until next time, keep those minds open and those imaginations running wild.